Now, Mango Airlines, the low-cost arm of state-owned South African Airways, has been cleared to resume flying after a dispute with the airport's operator over non-payment of fees was resolved. The airline had to ground its flights on Wednesday, leaving many passengers stranded at various airports. The carrier agreed with Airports Company South Africa to make a part payment on what it owes and commit to ways to settle the remaining debt. For more on this, I'm joined by aviation analyst Phuthego Mojapele. Very good morning to you. Thank you so much for joining us. The grounding of Mango was brief, but an indication of the deteriorating financial position at Mango. What did you make of it as you watched from the outside?
Well, thank you very much, Mpo, and the viewers. I think the Mango problems should have been prevented. I think the airline has done very well. Mango has never went to Treasury and has never went to DPE to ask for help. Since inception, they've done very well and, competing in the space that is really very much narrow, but they did absolutely well. But I think one of the things that we need to look at, going forward with this is that there has not been a concerted effort of making sure that this airline succeed. I mean, even when the airline started, after the COVID, there was never been any talk in terms of how we are going to keep Mango going, because SAA is not flying. SAA Express, we know, it is under liquidation process as we speak, and there hasn't been any effort in terms of the DPE as well as the Treasury to finance this airline, because that's the only airline that we have as a country operating currently. We don't have any other airline except that these are the plans of SAA to come back on the skies. But at the moment, our efforts should be on the Mango and make sure that they also do just more than what they are doing.
Mango was considering to halt operations from May the 1st to go into business rescue while awaiting some money, a cash injection from SAA, about 10.5 billion rand bailout, which SAA got in October. How would that cash injection have been helpful? And was that not an indication of, some intervention and some assistance for Mango?
Yeah, well, I think if you look at the overall processes of government, how they've been going on funding these entities, especially looking back at from SAA Express to SAA, SAA being the one that really had been receiving quite a lot. I think the funding should have been prioritized into things that really work in terms of in aviation, especially your your Mango is there, and SAA Technical, because Technical it doesn't necessarily service the SAA, it services other airlines, and it's a viable business for the state, and I think we could still continue servicing other countries around the African continent, airlines around the African continent. And I think priority should be given to these entities, especially Mango and Technical, because when you look at the entire African continent, the MROs that are operating mainly, they are foreign-owned, your Lufthansa, Technical, and so on. And when you look at, ComAir as well, they also can utilize that. But I think the priority of the state should be on entities that are literally viable, but not that are going to continue to be a burden in our state coffers.
And that raises the question then why the BRP would leave Mango out of the process, especially as you mentioned SAA Express and Technical.
Yeah, I mean, that's the question that we're asking. Surely it should have been something that they prioritize, and especially when you look at the COVID. Airlines around the world, they get funding. They get, it's not necessarily a funding, but they help them to be able to survive, because the industry is in a bad shape and it's going to be like this for a good couple of years. But when you have a small entity like Mango be able to operate even when it's not viable for them to do that, and they still be able to to fly, then, surely it should be supported in all costs and make sure that, we keep them up on the skies and so that they can expand even the routes that SAA catered for.
Mango owes money not only to AXA, but it has other expenses and other debts which speak to the aviation industry processes and how there's leases involved. Let's talk a little bit about the other parties involved, as well as AXA, and also scrutinizing the relationship Mango has with AXA and what it means.
Yeah, well, we have so many processes in aviation. You pay, there's so many things that, airlines pays. And some of these things were also raised by the association, airline associations, African Airline Association, to say, you've got to come to the party and help us to reduce the operating cost, because there's just too many things that need to be, at least be abandoned. But when you go to AXA, which is something that really, I think there's something wrong in AXA doing business with the airline that owns by the same government that owns AXA. And how do you go and ground the airline that is the only, company that we have owned by the state, and you ground it? Where is the interministerial discussion? I mean, surely the Minister of Transport, DPE, they can come together and agree on some terms, including the Finance Minister, because at the end of the day, it will end up on his table to finance, if finance had to be coming from Treasury. And I'm asking myself, the Minister of Transport, if he has okayed that grounding of Mango on that particular day, where they lost quite a lot of revenue on that specific day, including the famous route of Zanzibar that was abandoned. I mean, surely we should have done better than that, especially from the government point of view. And clearly you can see they're not talking to each other in terms of how they're going about making sure that, we're running a viable business as far as aviation is concerned.
We don't know how much Mango owes AXA, because, AXA says that's a private discussion between it and Mango. But when it comes to the balance sheet and how much Mango will need to recapitalize its balance sheet and pay its debt, what sort of figures are we looking at?
Well, I'm not privy to those figures. Surely, I'm sure they are in a better place to tell. However, the operation costs, they should be made public. I don't understand why AXA is saying it's a private matter. Mango is a public entity. I mean, it's our taxpayers' money. Surely we should be told how much they're owing. Even themselves, AXA, much as they went to Treasury asking for bailout, surely Mango is in the same predicament. And they should not be treated as if there isn't any process in place. And I do agree, it should be enough to be able to help them to expand the routes to go to regional as well. They should go to Africa, Zimbabwe and Harare and other places, which are really, really lucrative. I mean, Harare route, Johannesburg, Harare route is lucrative. So, and I think they should be supported. They should be given enough to be able to service their debt and increase the fleet and increase the routes. And I'm sure Mango is going to be the airline that we should all support, and is going to literally help SAA. And the nice thing about Mango is that it doesn't come with a legacy problems that SAA carries. It's a clean airline which really worked very hard to keep its name high and be able to customers to build a good relationship with customers. And I'm sure if we continue to live it like that and end up being SAA and SA Express, then clearly we just have no interest in this business.
We saw some movement when it comes to raising money from SA Express employees coming together and trying to find solutions there. But where does that leave the future of SAA as we speak? What are things looking like there?
Well, the SAA have appointed a new CEO, which they saying they are going to officially take over the process from the BRP and run the operation the beginning of next month, and they are planning to start the operation somewhere in July. But the question that we're asking ourselves is that SAA is highly indebted. You know, they're owing almost everybody. Where are they going to start in terms of acquiring the new lease of aircrafts, especially that are going to operate the narrow body that are going to do regional, where they are going to start? Because currently they have only the long haul, the 346 and 343, which are not necessarily good for the short routes. How are they going to first pay Rolls-Royce? They're owing an engine company quite a lot of money. How are they going to pay Rolls-Royce? Are they going to go to Treasury and say, we need to service this? Those are the questions that we must ask. And I think the concerted efforts that needs to be made here is to focus on this low cost. And SAA, let SAA do international. But for now, let's give Mango a bit of a chance to continue operating, because the operational cost of Mango is of a low cost. It's not a premium. Once you bring SAA here, you're going to spend more than what you could spend on Mango. And I think having to move the local and the regional to Mango would really make a lot of sense, because you're then able to compete with your low cost like your Surf Air, your Com Air, Kulula, and the new one, Lift, and you're able to at least compete with those, because those are the ones that are really transporting people and getting our people from one point to the other cost effectively. So when you bring a premium, are we ready to get a premium service at this time when COVID is still ravaging the society and there's so much restrictions around the world for the customers to move across the countries? So those are the things that I think we should have looked at, you know, as a government and focus on that.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you for taking the time to give us some sense of the space in the aviation industry, as well as looking closely at Mango Airlines aviation analyst Phuthego Mojapele, giving us a sense of some of the trends and expectations and solutions to that crisis.